Nomak samanda bazaradan senda makuruşa suade untarata kamman nomak samanda bazaradan senda makuruşa suade untarata kamman nomak samanda bazaradan 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 kam.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Yujiro Seki speaking. I'm the director of Carving the Divine, Buddhist Sculptors of Japan. I am ready to release Carving the Divine. Yes, finally, it's exciting. So, but today I have a privilege to introduce somebody who already watched Carving the Divine. Hello, Mr. Reverend Harada, Marvin Harada. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Yujiro-san.
Great, great. So yes, I know everybody knows about you. You are super famous in your community, but for people who don't know anything about you, please introduce yourself and please tell us a little bit about the BCA.
Okay. My name is Reverend Marvin Harada. I'm serving as the bishop of our Buddhist Churches of America. The Buddhist Churches of America is a part of the Jodo Shinshu tradition or Shin Buddhism. Our tradition is connected to Nishi Honganji in Kyoto, Japan. And we have been in the United States for nearly 125 years. So a long history from around 1898 or so. Buddhist temples were formed by Japanese American communities. We have presently 58 churches and temples. Now we are going beyond the Japanese American community, and we have people of various ethnicities and backgrounds attending our churches and temples, following the path of Shin Buddhism.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love the idea of inclusion and including everybody to the temple, not for only Japanese people. That's a 21st century way to go about it. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So how you're holding up for all the COVID crisis?
Yes, it was very challenging for the past basically 3 years or so. In the beginning, all of our churches and temples were completely closed, and services were then held either on Zoom or Facebook or YouTube Live. The positive side is that it forced us to learn how to share Buddhism over the internet. Otherwise, we never would have done those things. But now every minister is basically broadcasting their local temple service, either on YouTube, on Facebook, or they're reaching people on Zoom, in addition to now being in person as we have reopened. But it was a real challenge, and many funeral services were delayed for a year. Memorial services were put on hold, weddings were postponed. So, and on top of all the local temple events like Obon and bazaars, all fundraisers. So it was a real challenge, but most of our temples, they thought of creative ways to have fundraisers virtually, and they managed through this difficult time. And now they are reopening, and everyone is so happy to see each other again in person.
Yes, yes, I understand. I love Zoom and everything, but nothing can beat in person. So
yes.
I got it. So yes, Reverend Harada, you've watched Carving the Divine, and you are actually one of the first people that I showed Carving the Divine, and frankly, I was very scared because you are such a person of a high prestige, and if you tell me no, everything was going to fall apart. So yeah, but you gave me a positive response, so I was very appreciative. So what was your experience?
Oh, I thought it was a wonderful movie. And I thought it was a movie that anyone could enjoy and be moved by. First of all, just to understand what it really takes to carve, a Buddhist a statue of the Buddha in the traditional manner. But to me, what really sort of resonated with me about the film is the sort of master-disciple relationship, or the master and student relationship, and how the master carver teaches, trains the student, sometimes in very sort of stern, harsh, in Japanese we say kibishi ways. But this is how an art like that is truly transmitted from master to disciple. So in that sense, I think the movie is appealing to anyone of any background, because it doesn't matter what the art or tradition or profession might be. There's that teacher-student relationship in anything, whether it's music, whether it's dance, whether it's in academics. There's sort of this relationship between a master and how a student really learns from a true master.
Great. Thank you very much for your feedback. But often I encounter the situation in the Western world that kind of relationship could be too harsh and could be power harassment. So, what do you say to that?
Well, maybe that person doesn't understand the sort of maybe, I don't think it's just Japan, but it could be the Asian tradition. But I'm sure there were stern teachers like that too in Western art, in Western fields of music or whatnot. I know it was harsh. The teacher might say, this is terrible, go back and do it again. But if you respect the teacher for what they truly know, then you have to take the teacher's word. My teacher says this is terrible, I should do it over, so I have to do it over. You're the student, you're the one learning. You're not in the position of arguing with your master about, well, I think it's pretty good. So I think that shows, that teaches us something, especially in the West, where we don't want to be questioned. We think if we're a student in a college class, we write something, oh, I think that's pretty good. But to be challenged by the teacher and to say, start over or do it again, we don't want to hear that. But that's what a real teacher does, I think.
So what do you think that, the definition of love and compassion? So, in Buddhist community, we always talk about, but love and compassion could come in a different form. And sometimes strict, stern teaching could be love and compassion. What do you think of that?
Yes, that's why, Buddhism, it's wisdom and compassion. See, wisdom and compassion goes together. And so sometimes compassion doesn't always mean patting someone on the back and, oh, you did such a nice job. We all need that encouragement too. But I think a real master teacher knows that if they want to really transmit something like such a fine art, that sometimes they have to be very harsh and stern. And then the thing that was touching about that movie, when they did get some kind of praise, and it wasn't big praise, it was something like, oh yeah, this isn't bad. The student feels like, oh my gosh, that was like the highest praise they got from their teacher. That, no, not bad, that kind of reaction, affirming that the student did a good job.
Oh, wow, that's beautifully summarized. So thank you so much. And yeah, is there any time that you will be able to reflect upon your life when you're watching the movie?
Yes, no, I think it made me think of similar situations of various teacher-student relationships, and and maybe I reacted like, gee, that was kind of too harsh. But looking at that movie, realizing that maybe your teacher was right, or sometimes in a parent-child relationship too, we don't want to receive the stern scolding from our parents, but as we grow older, we see the wisdom in their sternness.
Wonderful. So was your Tokudo training to be like a priest? Was that difficult, or
Yes, in those days it was it was kind of like boot camp. So throughout the whole week it was really, you have to sit straight and chant right, and teachers were very stern. But all that sort of severity and harshness leading up to when you actually receive Tokudo from the head of our tradition, the Gomonshu Sama, that was a very moving experience. I don't think anyone goes through that experience without being, touched deep in their heart.
Sounds like a very rewarding process.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Very impressive. So what do you think? Is there any lesson that people can learn from watching Carving the Divine, either Buddhist or non-Buddhist, or anybody?
Oh, yes, that's where I think the movie has it should be enjoyable, and it should be touching and moving to anyone, because we all have tried to learn something. Maybe we don't learn such a fine art like carving Buddhist statues, but we've all learned something, whether it's just lessons in golf or ballroom dancing or cooking. And so to have you have to have, sort of absolute trust and reverence in your teacher. And then you as a student do your absolute best. I think that movie really teaches us what it means to really learn.
Wow, no, I don't have anything more to say, but yeah, I think I would like to talk a little bit about the Jodo Shinshu and how it can be related to the film. And one of the scenes, I think, the apprentice was making Amida Nyorai, which is very important for Jodo Shinshu tradition. So what is Amida Nyorai anyway? Please tell us.
Well, I think the Western audience should know that the beautiful Buddhist statues of a Buddha like Amida Nyorai is a symbol. It is a symbol. It represents the contents of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment, wisdom, and compassion. So these wonderful artists express this something that's beyond words, something that's beyond description, wisdom and compassion. They are expressing it in an artistic form, in the form of a beautiful statue. And that's why there's so many metaphors in the Buddhist art. For example, the Amida Nyorai is always in a slightly leaning forward position, as opposed to in Zen Buddhism, they would have a statue of the Buddha that's seated in meditation, because they're emphasizing sitting in meditation. But in Shin Buddhism, the Amida Nyorai is slightly leaning forward, and that is to represent the dynamic compassion that Amida Buddha is reaching to all beings, to lead all beings to enlightenment. Or this truth of enlightenment, the truth of the Dharma, is really trying to reach us, to awaken us. But we are deluded, ignorant, unenlightened beings, and our eyes are kind of blind to it. But the teachings, the light of the Buddha is trying to reach us. And these beautiful statues symbolize that through their art.
So Western people often say Amida Nyorai is just like Jesus Christ. That's not true, right?
No. So that in the Bible it says you should not worship idols. So that's why people who come from the Judeo-Christian tradition think that the statues on our altar are like idols, like we're worshiping an idol, praying to the idol that it's going to make it rain or make my business successful. We don't look at the statue as having that kind of power. The statue has power in what it represents, which is, wisdom and compassion.
It's a more symbol than like a
Yes.
actual, okay.
That's right. Symbol.
Great. Wow, wonderful. So sounds like anybody can be Shin Buddhist. Is that correct? Or you have to be a monk, or you have to meditate all day to be Shin Buddhist?
No, that's the one unique thing about Shin Buddhism, is that it's a path that anyone can follow. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. You don't have to give up your lay lifestyle and meditate hours and hours a day. So it's a path really for anyone of any background.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your feedback and review about the carving the divine. And also we learned so much about Shin Buddhism today. So if anybody who wants to learn more about Shin Buddhism, what we can do?
Well, they can first visit our BCA website. It's BuddhistChurchesOfAmerica.org, BuddhistChurchesOfAmerica.org, and then there it will direct you to ways that you can learn about Shin Buddhism. But
Great.
I'd just like to wish you the best on this next phase of your movie. I hope that you're able to get it shown in many theaters, and that many people will be able to see this wonderful work of art that you created in this movie.
Thank you so much. Yes, so we're gonna do it, and we're gonna make it work, and so that people can watch Carving the Divine. 1,400-year-old Japanese art tradition cannot be offered anywhere. So thank you very much today, Reverend Harada, for coming and talk about the Carving the Divine, and also talk about the Shin Buddhism. We learned so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.